Now, of course, we're all familiar with the science. We know the Earth tilts on its axis. So if you look at the North and the South Pole as like the top and the bottom of the Earth tilts or slants on its side, which tilts and slants everything at a sideways angle toward the sun. And remember, the Earth's axis is basically a line that starts at the North Pole and ends at the South Pole. And so with the Earth being tilted on its axis, the axis of the Earth is tilted or slanted at 23 degrees. And that 23-degree tilt varies between 23.5 and 23.4 degrees. And currently, right now, the Earth is tilted at 23.4 degrees. And when you line that 23.4 degree tilt with the equatorial plane of the Earth, where the Earth's circumference balances and equals out, it places that tilt of the Earth's axis to the equator at 66.6 degrees, which means that the Earth is actually tilting from north to south at an angle of 66.6 degrees, which is causing the poles to tilt at 66.6 degrees, because we have the polar circles, or the Arctic and the Antarctic circles, those areas that encompass a large part of the northern and southern polar regions, basically the areas closest to the north and closest to the south, where you see the sun in the sky for over 24 hours because of that tilt. And again, that tilt is slanting the Earth's poles 66.6 degrees, 66.6 degrees north, 66.6 degrees south. And of course, we know that tilt is what's giving us seasons, time zones, the different climates on the Earth, because of the way the Earth is slanting toward the sun and away from the sun. This tilt is set at this precise angle that is creating the perfect conditions for life on this planet. Literally, if Earth was at any other angle, life as we know it would not exist on this planet. And they're saying that part of what's helping to keep the Earth at this steady angle is the moon. That the moon is keeping the Earth tilted toward the sun. The gravitational pull of the moon is keeping the Earth tilted at 23.4 degrees or 66.6 degrees. Because of that attraction between the moon and the Earth is set at this 66.6 degree tilt at the highest point of its axis. The moon's gravity is preventing the Earth's tilt from shifting erratically, and it's providing what they call a training wheels effect, basically anchoring the Earth's axis at the perfect angle toward the sun to create a habitable climate on the Earth, stable seasons, making sure all organic life can grow on the planet. They're saying that the moon is stabilizing this entire process, and that when the moon formed, that it formed at the perfect size and the perfect shape to have the exact gravitational influence necessary to stabilize the Earth's tilt. So if the moon was any smaller, any bigger, it wouldn't have the same influence on the Earth, and the Earth would not be set at this angle. And remember, the moon was supposed to have formed from that giant impact between the planet Earth and the planet Theia. The moon is supposed to be remnants of that impact that formed after the impact and orbited around the Earth. So basically, without this planet Theia crashing into the Earth, impacting the Earth, we would not have the moon, which means we wouldn't have that stabilizing force to keep the Earth at that perfect tilt, to give us life as we know it on this planet. And they're saying that not only did this crash from Theia give us our moon, but they're also saying that this planet crashing into the Earth is possibly what tilted it on its side. That when Theia crashed into the Earth, that impact of that crash may have tilted the Earth on its axis, slanting it 23 degrees.
The tilt of our planet's rotational axis is about 23 degrees currently, and it's that tilt that gives us our overall seasonal pattern. It turns out that if we didn't have our moon, or if we had a moon but it was just smaller than our current moon, that interactions with the other planets in the solar system would cause Earth's rotational axis to vary by many tens of degrees. It would certainly have been an entirely different climate and a different Earth than we have today. And so in this way, the formation of our moon and the formation of our moon, of just the mass of our moon, has had a very important impact on the evolution of the Earth's spin state, and with it, the evolution of our long-term climate. So we think the moon formed when the Earth was struck by a very large object as the Earth was forming. So this would have been a separately formed planet, but it collided with the Earth and ultimately was absorbed by the Earth and gave birth to our moon. The idea that the moon formed by this giant collision with the Earth was first proposed in the mid-70s. And yet, we couldn't test the idea initially. For smaller scale collisions, you can perform experiments in the laboratory, but you can't perform an experiment of what happens when two planets collide in any laboratory setting. To do this, you need to build a computational model to simulate the planets and their response to the collision, as in essence a virtual laboratory to test how the outcome depends on things like the size of the impactor, the impact speed and angle, and use the overall results to assess the likelihood of forming a moon like ours. On a timescale of a few hours, an enormous shock wave from the impact would have propagated around the entire surface of the Earth. The momentum, the force of this collision, is enough to start the Earth rotating very rapidly. And so only hours after this impact, the Earth has a rapid rotation rate. So in terms of the impactor, which we often call Theia, we think that based on its mass, that it would have been as big as the planet Mars. The reason that we focus on a Mars-size impactor is that that is the impactor size that if you hit the Earth with a Mars-size impactor at an off-center angle at the expected speed, you will start the Earth spinning, but it turns out that is what is needed to agree with our current 24-hour day with the moon at its current distance.
But why do we have seasons on the planet Earth? Well, while Earth travels around the sun in a circle, the axis, or the point stretching between the North Pole and the South Pole, wobbles a little bit, and it creates the 4 seasons. But why did this all start? Well, hey, watch out. That was from a planet called Theia. It was the size of Mars and collided with Earth about 4.5 billion years ago, causing the axis to tilt back and forth, creating seasons here on Earth. And the debris from this planet's impact on Earth created our moon, which is still in orbit. So the more you know about our seasons here on Earth. Reporting on the weather deck, I'm meteorologist Violet Skyber. Back to you.
So without this planet Theia impacting the Earth, we don't have the moon, and we don't have life as we know it on this planet. So again, without this planet Theia, they're saying we don't have the tilt of the Earth, the rotation of the Earth, which again is giving us our 4 seasons, making this planet habitable, creating an environment for organic life to thrive. And again, that the gravity of the moon is stabilizing this tilt, which we wouldn't have without this impact from Theia. And they're saying that once the moon formed and began to orbit the Earth, that the gravitational pull of the moon actually helped to slow down the Earth's rotation to 0.000694 revolutions per minute to give the Earth a 24-hour rotation. So not only is the moon stabilizing the Earth's tilt, it is stabilizing the Earth's rotation. And again, without Theia impacting the Earth, we don't have the moon. And they're not just saying that this impact from Theia formed the moon. They're actually saying that when Theia crashed into the Earth, that it carried water and carbon with it. And that when it slammed into the Earth, that all this water and all this carbon was infused with the Earth. And we know about 50% of the Earth's oxygen comes from water, comes from the ocean. And that 99.9% of all life on the Earth is carbon based. And again, they're saying that Theia brought water and carbon onto the Earth when it impacted the Earth. And that the energy of that impact potentially helped to form the Earth's magnetic field, which is helping to protect us from harmful solar radiation. They are literally saying that when Theia crashed into the Earth, when it impacted the Earth, that it helped to set the stage for the formation of life on the planet. That the Earth and Theia coming together is what gave us life as we know it on this planet. So basically that Theia was essential to giving us life on this planet. That all the essential building blocks for life were given to the Earth by Theia, and basically transformed the Earth into what it is today. All of this started with Theia. And remember, pieces of Theia, pieces of that ancient planet, are supposed to be trapped inside the Earth, trapped deep down in the Earth's mantle. Because after the Earth collided, pieces of what was left of Theia was supposed to have gotten trapped down there, trapped in the mantle. And those pieces of Theia are what they're scientifically calling the large low shear velocity provinces. Those two anomalies that are the size of continents sitting deep down inside the Earth, deep down in the mantle. And remember, after those pieces attached to the inside of the Earth, the rest of those pieces of Theia and the Earth joined together, orbited around the Earth, and formed the moon. So basically, pieces of the Earth and Theia coming together created the moon. So the moon is pieces of the planet Earth and pieces of the planet Theia, meaning there are pieces of the planet Theia within the moon. Remember, they're saying that Theia is responsible for giving us life as we know it on the Earth. So they're basically saying that the reason for life on Earth as we know it is not only sitting deep down inside the Earth, but it's also sitting within the moon. So Theia is present in the Earth and present in the moon. You got remnants of Theia in both the Earth and the moon. And remember what that name Theia means. It means a god or a goddess or a divine one, a divine being, an extremely advanced or god-like being. So you can look at this as them saying that remnants of a divine being are sitting deep down inside the Earth and sitting within the moon. Remnants of a divine being, a god or a goddess that is responsible for giving us life as we know it on the Earth. Remember, Theia is a planet that is separate from the Earth, a body in space that is outside of the Earth. So Theia would be an extraterrestrial body in space that collided with the Earth billions of years ago. So basically an ancient extraterrestrial body in space. So again, you could see this as them saying that something ancient and extraterrestrial responsible for giving us life on Earth as we know it, and responsible for stabilizing that life on the Earth, is sitting inside the Earth and sitting inside the moon. That what is sitting inside the Earth is not from the Earth, that it is extraterrestrial. and that it is also inside the moon, that it gave us life on this planet, and that they see what is down inside the earth and on the moon as Theia, as a divine one, that they see it as God-like, as a God-like entity. And that when it collided with the earth, that it tilted the earth on its axis from north to south, 66.6 degrees. And that when it attached itself to the earth, that it was attached to the mantle, specifically to the middle of the mantle transition zone, that 660 kilometer discontinuity, that again, when they measure it, is sitting at an approximate depth of 666 kilometers. When they measure where it ends, where the base or the lowest part of the mantle transition zone is, it looks like it stops 666 kilometers down into the earth. Because right after 666 kilometers, the velocity completely shifts. It increases, as if after 666 kilometers, we are moving past some type of structure that is slowing those waves down, some type of structure that stops right at 666 kilometers down into the earth, as if those large low shear velocity provinces, those pieces of Theia, stop right at 666 kilometers down into the earth.